Thank you so much. We are joined by 6 of our trustees, our superintendent of schools, Dr. Timothy Harney, our assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, Mr. Robert Haas, our interim assistant superintendent for finance and operations, Mr. Luis Frontero, our district legal counsel, our district clerk, Mr. Zambonetti, and our student representative, Ms. Alexandra Balechos. As always, there are two opportunities for the community to participate during the Board of Ed meeting. The first is just before the board takes up its agenda, and the second follows the disposition of all agenda items. As always, if you'd like to speak, we ask that you come to the podium. You please state your name and your address, and just remember the allotted time is 3 minutes, and you must be a member of the Bayport Blue Point School District, or a majority vote of the board must be voted on. For the convenience of the community, as always, all Bayport Blue Point Board of Ed meetings are live streamed in the back and posted to board docs. And you can follow the Bayport Blue Point School District on Instagram at BBP School District. You can follow us on Facebook at Bayport Blue Point SD, and you can follow us on X at BBP Schools. And Dr. Harney, you can always follow, he's looking to get his numbers up, at BBP Soup. But at this time, we'll open it up for any community members for any new or old business. Not hearing any. Dr. Harney?
Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. Welcome to everybody tonight. Tonight's a very special night. We get to celebrate a lot of things. First, we get to recognize a lot of our students, which is always a great night for us. And we get to welcome 2 new people to our Bayport Blue Point family, which we'll do later on as well. So it's a great night. Just a couple updates I'd like to have for you is, one is last week we did start our concert season. So we had 2 of the high school concerts last week, which were tremendous. And then we also had on last Friday, we had the CB's concert and award recognition, which Ms. Balechos was there as well. So congratulations to her, as always. Yeah. Just a quick reminder, obviously, and I'm sure our students are well aware of this, as we are off Thursday and Friday and Monday, so I'm sure they know that. There you go. All right, and then just as a reminder, and we're going to still hold out for no more snow, as you're thinking about the Memorial Day weekend, is that Tuesday we are back in school because of the one day we used in February, but as of right now, Friday is still looking as if that will be that snow day that we're able to give back, to the students and to our staff. So that is something for the future. Also, recently there was a Scope dinner. Scope runs a recognition for all the districts across Long Island, and I was able to attend there with a number of people. And we had 3 award winners there last night that we will bring here at some point, but I would like to recognize them. One is Mrs. Coleman from Sylvan Avenue, a 4th grade teacher, so congratulations to her. And then in our support staff areas, we had Mr. Piquel, who is our lead security guard and does a lot of things for us, so congratulations to him. And then Miss Regina, who is really Mr. Fronterio's right-hand person. She works with him in the business office, so I'd just like to acknowledge all of them and congratulate them. Last week, I got to also attend the Coluccio Foundation held an event where it was myself, and it was open to the community, and there were 4 or 5 districts that were there. It was myself, Santa Mauritius, Sayville, and Connecticut, where we got to share a lot of the SEL or wellness initiatives that we've been doing over the last couple of years. So it was a great event. I'd like to thank the Coluccio Foundation for putting that on. As I said, we were able to share some of the things that we've been doing, but also saying that also was able to get some takeaways that we maybe will be able to include here within Bayport Blue Point. And then just also another note, and this one is really for Blue Point Elementary, but one of the things that we'll be doing, and either Ms. Velasco had or she will be sending out a notice, we're going to practice what they call a reunification drill. That's going to be in April, and the idea of this is for if there was ever an emergency where we had to move the students from one place to another, you have to be able to reunify them with their families at some point. So that is something that we are going to do, so we can kind of test some of our protocols. More information will come out from that. as we get closer to it, but it'll be probably before the next break at some point. But that is something we're looking to do. And then eventually we'll try it in our other schools as well, just so we can kind of figure out some of the logistics. And we're going to work with our local fire department and our local police department. So it's something that I don't know of a district on Long Island that has done it. So it's something that we want to try here. And then we'll probably have people come from the outside who kind of see how we handle that. So that is something that we will be doing going forward. And then just a quick reminder, some of you may have heard that there is a solar eclipse happening. That is something that will be happening in April. We are doing the purchasing of glasses and stuff for everyone, and we're also going to be, Mr. Haas is working with Mr. Stevo, who is the chairperson for science. It's a great learning opportunity for us as well, so those will be some of the things that we'll be doing then. With that, I think those are my highlights for now. I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Dr. Harney. We'll turn it over to our student delegate, Ms. Palacios.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. So first is Blue Point Elementary. They had a successful PARP week, and while the total number of minutes is still being tallied, students enjoyed bedtime, story time, dressing up as their favorite book character, and of course, wearing pajamas to celebrate. Also, next week, the students will be a part of an interactive presentation where the aquatic director of the YMCA will review pool, boat, and beach safety. Thank you to the PE department chairperson, Mrs. Livingston, for setting that up. At the middle school sports are officially underway as the JWY student athletes took the field for the first time on Monday. Be sure to go check out the games as they will begin in a few weeks. Additionally, on Monday, March 18th, JWI celebrated Career Day with their 8th grade students. Students rotated through 4 different speakers with varying careers, including Mr. Magnuson, who was a pilot, Mrs. Peterson from the Steamfitters Union, Dr. Armstrong, who's a chiropractor, Mr. Giannotti from WFAN's The Boomer and Geo Morning Show. Wow, that's fun. A special thanks to all the presenters for sharing insight into their respective careers. Congratulations also to the 3 8th grade James Wilson Young Middle School students who won the Patchogue VFW Patriots Pen Essay Contest, Cameron, Mariah, and Angela. Finally, for the middle school, on April 2nd, James Wilson Young will be welcoming guest speaker Mr. Jordan Toma, who will be talking to the entire student body about his presentation, I'm Just a Kid with an IEP. At the high school, congratulations to all who performed and received scholarships at the CB's Performing Arts fundraiser on Friday. Congratulations to DJ Placente and Taylor Space on receiving scholarships at the Eastern Suffolk BOCES 24th Annual Showcase and Dinner. And finally, for the high school, they're inviting you to the Sayville Running Club's 2nd annual student-led 5K series on the PS I Love You Inspired Run, whose goal is to raise awareness for mental health and promote coping skills. Okay, finally, at Academy Street, next week they have an author visit. A poet, Darren Sardelli, is coming next week, and there will be bagels and books with the 1st grade also next week. And finally, they are beginning the swim safe lessons for all grades over the next few weeks. Okay, thank you. Back to you, Mr. Miller.
Awesome job as always. Thank you, Allie. And moving on to celebrate our students who are here tonight, we want to turn it over to Mr. Haas to celebrate our students for all their music activities and festivals. Mr. Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. So it's always an honor to stand up here and recognize so many of our students. Tonight I have the honor to call up students from the elementary, middle, and high school levels to recognize them in some of the outstanding performances that they have done within music over the course of this school year. So I am going to ask the students, I will call you up. Some of you I may tell you to stay because you might be getting more than one. But after we come up, I am going to have you all line up along the stage together. There's, I believe, 4 separate awards that we'll be handing out. But one of the things I really want them together to see it is you can really see the tremendous amount of students that have excelled in the area of music. And it's a huge credit to the time and effort that they put into it. But I also would want to take a moment to thank their teachers and you guys, the parents. I know that to get to these levels does take a great deal of dedication on the part of the teachers and even the parents at home with practicing. I know how that goes. So really just thank you to all of them as we bring the students up. So first we have the Long Island String Festival. We have Jane Einhart. Anna Foreman. Congratulations. So you're going to head to the stage. Congratulations. Cameron Gallio Fiore. Joshua Green. Congratulations. Catherine Lomer. Matilda Merced. Juliet Raymond. Zoe Saliani. And Eric Swinkin. So these are our Long Island String Festival Association. Next we have for NISMA All-State, and I don't see her yet. I know she is in varsity softball game, and it really goes to show the amount that our students do, but we have Leanna McCormick. I do see her grandma in the audience who is here to see her. Next, we have the New York State Council of Administrators of Music Education Award. We have Sophia Majorana, Leanna McCormick, DJ Blasente, and Ali Vlachos. Congratulations. I'm going to, as I throw it on the floor, I'm going to ask Ali to stay here real quick because she is also the recipient of the Suffolk County Music Educators Association Jazz Festival Award. Next, we have the awards for the Suffolk County Music Educators Association All County Awards. We have Janie Abrisha. Willem Adams Kane. Emma Bachek. Fiona Brinkman. Avery Carney. AJ Cavuto. Juliana Cirillo. Michaela Durasmo. Jane Einhart. Congratulations. William Einhart. Good year. Congratulations. Congratulations. Charles Hambley. Jameson Hogan. Carson Kane. Congratulations. Congratulations. Naira Lopez Diaz. Congratulations. Ella Manley. Sean Mattimore. Malcolm Merced. Congratulations, Sean. Charlotte O'Leary. Krish Patel. Taylor Peluso. Juliet Raymond. Melanie Reed. Juliana Ryan. Zoe Saliani. Congratulations. Francesco Silvestrini. Congratulations again. Eric Swinkin. Penelope Terzopoulos. Congratulations again. Eliza Thompson. Alexander Valder. Congratulations. Congratulations. Anthony Valder. Abigail Valenti. Congratulations. Emma Valentine. And Duke Weinstein. Congratulations.
If you guys could get,
This is an opportunity too for parents. If you want to kind of move to the middle, you can get a picture as well. We're going to get them organized for you. They're in charge of this. I don't get in the way. Congratulations to all our music winners.
just want to thank everyone for coming tonight. If you would like to leave for homework or because the board meetings are not fun, we all definitely understand, so have a great night. Congrats, guys. All right, thank you guys so much for staying tonight. We do have two presentations. We have an elementary academic presentation. We are joined by two of our elementary principals, so thank you guys so much. And also we have Mr. Haas, so thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for doing this for us.
Thank you again, Mr. Miller. I am joined. I would like to thank Ms. Beard and Ms. Velasco for joining me this evening as we take a look at a brief presentation on elementary reading and writing. And really, what we wanted to take a look at with this presentation is where we currently are and what are our plans in terms of moving forward. So when we talk about tonight's presentation, like I said, I just want to give you a snapshot of where we currently are and give you an indication of some of the things that we are looking at as we move forward. So tonight we are going to discuss briefly where our K-5 curriculum within reading and writing is at this point, show you where we and how we assess students throughout the course of the year, talk a little bit about our AIS program, explain the role of our literacy coaches at the elementary level, provide, and this is where Ms. Velasco and Ms. Beard will be coming up, they'll be talking about how we promote literacy and writing at each of the elementary schools. We'll take a quick look at some of the data that we have shown before, but just to give you an indication of what we are looking at and what we will continue to looking at moving forward. And like I said, we will explore where we are looking to go next in future years. Like with any presentation, we look at our district goals and we look at all of our programs to make sure that they are in alignment with those goals and ultimately potentially moving forward with regards to the strategic plan. So as I stated, I want to give you just a quick snapshot of where we are, and I'll talk about this a little bit towards the end of the presentation. When we look at reading and writing in grades K through 5, really these are the main areas. This is not the be-all, end-all of everything we do. There are other things that are done to supplement programs at each grade level. But if you look, we are a school that was using the TC Reading, TC Writing, and the units of study. So you'll see that within K-5 classrooms. When we talk about assessment, we talk about different benchmarks throughout the course of the year that do look at different things. One of the things that we have spent time on throughout the course of this year with professional development is taking a look at iReady and looking at the different reading levels of students and the Lexile levels of students as we go through. And then looking at, you do see even, we do have the New York State assessments on there once the students hit grade 3, as those are tools that we utilize as a district to gauge a student's performance, to look at our curriculum, and to develop programs for those students as they move forward. And when we talk about possible supports for students, these are some of the areas within the elementary level in which we provide academic intervention services for students. So you'll see it within just AIS reading and writing. This is a program where students are oftentimes through our EST, they are looked at, they're within 1 year of grade level, so it's to provide them some content support within those areas. And then you see some of the specialized programs that the students could receive at the elementary and even into the middle school level, everything from double dose to MSR, LLI. Now it's important to note that these programs, for a student to receive these, they do go through our building ESTs, our educational support teams that meet to look at the whole child, look at everything. They're referred by the classroom teachers usually, and decisions are made as to should that student receive, does that student need to receive some additional supports. So another key role that we have within our district beyond the supports that we provide students is taking a look at some of the supports that we have been fortunate enough to provide for our teachers as they deliver the instruction to the students. And we have, in the district, we do have 2 literacy coaches at the elementary level, Ms. Bree and Ms. Corso. And when you look and break down what the role of the literacy coaches are, they really focus on professional development. They look at curriculum support for the teachers. They do, we are starting to focus on data analysis, coaching and mentoring, going in and actually working side by side with teachers as they deliver a lesson, and collaboration, not only working with the teachers here closely, but also working with administrators, parents, and guardians as they look to assist everyone with literacy throughout. And one of the things they started doing and they did 2 of them this year, was literacy nights for parents and guardians. So they had one in the fall, and then one again just recently. And even at the recent one, they started to look at and show parents and guardians and even students that were there how they could utilize technology at home to help their child read and to support a love of literacy at home. So they were able to take parents through different apps, and parents were able to leave at the end of the night with QR codes that they could use with a device at home to then support their child at home and continue to foster that love of reading. So as I said, one of the things I wanted to show you as well is, I'm sorry, I skipped this slide. Some of the things that the literacy coaches do is they have helped us with the implementation of the units of study. Okay, again, they have provided professional development. They attend workshops on a monthly basis. They then take those workshops and turnkey train them to our teachers at all the grade levels. They provide one-on-one support. If a teacher has questions in trying a new strategy, they are able to provide that one-on-one support. They do a lot of the research for it. For the teacher, they also are in the process of taking a look at all the units of study and making curriculum maps and guides for teachers as we continue to support our students with literacy instruction. So, as I said at the beginning, I'm joined this evening by Ms. Beard and Ms. Velasco from Academy Street and Blue Point Elementary. Unfortunately, Mr. Scardino could not make it due to a family obligation, so I'll handle the Sylvan part. But I would like to, at this point, call up Ms. Beard, who's just going to talk to you briefly about Academy Street and what they are doing to encourage and celebrate a love of literacy.
Thank you, Mr. Haas. Good evening, everyone. So it's really nice to be able to take a few minutes just to share some of the things that we do at Academy Street, really to build a culture of literacy and a genuine love for reading and writing, and just overall a love for school, to have them love coming in each day. I won't read every single one of those up there, because I was only able to fill one page. So bagels and books is one thing that our literacy coaches kicked off. We were piloting this year. Our kindergartners had a session of this, and now first grade's coming up next week. And really, it's just a nice way to foster a love of read-alouds and coming together as a community. I mean, what better way to enjoy reading with having breakfast together? So, like I said, first grade is coming up next week, and we had kindergarten with that. And then we have buddy reading, and that kind of shows up in different ways. It's sometimes within a class, sometimes we have buddies from different grades coming together and reading with each other. We had high school students in today reading with our kindergartners, and they'll be coming in to read with all different grade levels over the next couple of weeks. Another thing that we're doing that our literacy coaches also kicked off was looking at what we're reading, and we have monthly themes going on, and within the classrooms, teachers are reading books based on the theme, and then they're putting the books outside their classrooms next to a sign that says, "Look what we're reading," and it's a clear mailbox, and it's just another way to get conversation about books, to appreciate what's being read across the building. And another thing that we've done is musical books, which is really done in library by Miss Salvador, and it's very simple, but also the kids really enjoy it, and it builds a lot of excitement around reading. She plays music. She's been playing a lot of Taylor Swift, and the kids go around the library. She has all books laid out, sometimes in different genres, and they get to kind of sample all the different books. And then when the music stops, they have to jump in that seat, look at that book, and then the music plays again. And that goes on for a little while, but the kids are just jumping out of their skin with excitement over getting to look at all the different books. Something big that's coming up soon in April and May is One Book, One School, One Book. Mrs. Pierce, our 5th grade teacher, is facilitating that with parents and teachers and students. And we just got the books in. We're excited to kick that off, where we'll all be reading one book together. Another thing that we do to foster love is just read-alouds, and that's kind of a staple that happens across the building, from read-alouds that are being done in class to guest readers coming in. I'll push into classrooms and do reading. Like I said, the high school kids come in. Miss Muccio, our social worker, goes in. And then we'll have town hall visits where the authors come in and they all read aloud, and we are really focused on facilitating our mantra with a place where you belong, where we believe in you, where anything is possible. And our author visits have been centered around that with you really truly do belong and you go in the impossible thing. We have Wear Words Wednesdays, which we borrowed from Blue Point Elementary School, and everybody is invited to wear words on their shirts. Just another way to talk about literacy, to have the power of words displayed out there on people's shirts. We also celebrated World Read Aloud Day. And those are just some of the things around literacy. And then, you know, literacy and writing reading and writing go hand in hand. And our workshop motto really emphasizes the process of writing. And so just going through brainstorming ideas and going through all the process to publishing. And then having writing buddies as well, where we have different classes coming together. They're editing and revising writing together. They're sharing their writing. We have families coming in as authentic audiences to listen to what their children are writing. You know, and just trying to create authentic experiences for writing across the different genres, from how-tos to persuasive writing, to research writing, to chapter books. So really giving a lot of experiences in the writing. And the workshop model for both reading and writing is just a great way where we're really able to have lots of deep conversations around reading and writing, as well as growing, helping grow skills for our students. And then one of the things that we've really been working on is just amplifying student voice and leadership opportunities for students and really getting them deeply involved in the school community as much as we can. And this is just a few of the things that we're doing with morning announcements. When I first started this year, I had students come in to do morning announcements with me, and I said, what can we do to kind of just make this a little more spicy and fun? And they were like, oh, we want to pick the song in the morning. We want to add riddles. And how about, you know, we get to do the fact of the day. So we put a poster up, and they've been submitting things for our morning announcements. We started a coffee club this year where in Miss Everett's class, Miss Eichert's class, and Miss Evdoyen and their peer buddies started like a coffee business, and they're running the whole thing, taking orders and serving coffee. And I don't know who's loving that more, the kids or the teachers getting their coffee in the day. We have Poetry Cafe coming, and Mr. Hahn, our third grade teacher, is facilitating that, and we're just involving students as poets in that. One of the things that I'm noticing is that the culture of students wanting to do things and come to me, they make appointments with my secretary to meet with me to talk about their ideas. And I just met with 2 students today who wrote a play, and they have it already casted, and they want to come in and do the play at one of our town hall meetings. So I'm meeting with them with the logistics. So really just trying to build that student voice and just have fun around school. We had a leap day puzzle where we hid puzzle pieces all over the school, and the kids had to find them and put them together. And it just, again, was a way to build community and get kids learning about things in fun ways. And we kicked off our first student ambassador for Rock Your Socks this month. One of our students who has Down syndrome was our ambassador. And again, just highlighting our students, giving them a chance to be known and be seen and shine in some way. And that was really, really awesome. And then lastly, when you go to Starbucks, look for our peer leaders made these labels, and they'll be on the Starbucks cups the next couple of weeks. So look out for that when you go into Starbucks. And that's just some of the ways that we are trying to foster a place where our students want to come, where they feel they belong, and they're just happy to learn and grow.
Thank you, Ms. Beard, for taking us through some of the things that Academy Street is doing. It's now my honor to introduce Ms. Velasco to talk about Blue Point.
First, I'd actually really like to thank the board and Dr. Harney and Mr. Haas. A lot of these ideas that I'm going to be sharing with you this evening come from the conferences that I go to, any ESP conference or around Long Island. I know Mrs. Beard just came back from one. So thank you for the opportunity to go to these conferences so that we can learn more and bring more things back to our students and staff. So the first thing is, a couple of slides ago, you might have seen a teacher with a picture book taking a picture. We had the professional photographer take the picture of faculty and staff with their favorite picture book. So that will be in the yearbook as our professional pictures. So to remind students that, you know, reading at any age is important and that they can look back and see our favorite picture books. On that same slide was a book basket, books in a basket, and we have books in a basket in all of our special area rooms. So we have them in our art room, we have books about art. In our music room, books about music. We have health and safety, books outside the nurse's office. The cafeteria has books about food and nutrition. The PE, the gym has books on sports. So it's really making those reading connections, that reading doesn't just happen during that reading period, but it also happens in all areas, especially ones that they probably like a little bit more, like gym. We have Where Words Wednesdays, which Mrs. Beard talked about as well. It's very cute having kindergartners go up and try and read each other's shirts, or older students ask what the shirts say. Very cute to see that. We have reading buddies. We have SEL buddies as well, so this has become more opportunities for students to read with each other. So the older students will go down and read with the younger students, but the younger students are starting to read with the older students, which is really special to see. We have district and building readers, and I just realized, Mr. Haas, did you take the picture of you reading out of the presentation? I had a great picture of Mr. Haas reading to the second graders. So we do have district and building readers coming to read. We have teachers switching classes, so they're not just reading to their own class. We had the high school students come down as well. Class and grade activities. So one of my favorite things to do is to go into the class and just read with the students. And what I started to do with each book is come up with some sort of activity that I can do with them. So the picture up there is we read the book Courage Hats. And in kindergarten, they made courage hats out of grocery bags. And then we did a parade around the school with our hats, and that was all based on that one book, Courage Hats. So that's one of my favorite things that I am able to do. We had dress-up days. So last week, we had PARP, and we had dress up your favorite book character, and that was a lot of fun. And you can see Miss Whitney there is dressed as the cat. We have read-alouds at every assembly. So whether Mrs. Yannick does an assembly, I do an assembly, no matter what it is on, we find a picture book to read in the beginning to start them off and show them how important literacy is to us. We've been lucky to have 3 authors, well 2 so far. We have one at the end of the year that come and join us and talk about the writing process, but also show their books as well from start to finish, which is really informative for the students not to give up and to keep working on their drafts. We also make writing a priority at our school. We have Writer of the Week, so the students are nominated by their teachers. It could be any teacher that sees them as a writer. They fill out a Google form, and then I read it over the loudspeaker on Wednesdays. I really like alliteration, Writer of the Week on Wednesdays, and I read it over the announcements. They get a certificate that says exactly what they were nominated for, and then they get to bring it home to their families. So we also have writing buddies, just like we have with the reading buddies. They talk about and share their writing that they're working on. And again, the kindergartners are starting to share that with the older students, which is very special. We have started to do some more student choice and student voice in our writing projects. So I visited a 4th grade classroom the other day, and they were working on comparing and contrasting 2 books. They were able to either write on their Chromebook in an essay form. They could write in their notebooks. Some were able to chose to do a presentation on Google Slides. So just giving them that choice to make writing a little bit more applicable for them. And then we're starting to do some real life applications. So this picture is a 1st grader interviewing one of the secretaries in our school. And they're speaking, and then they're writing about their answers. And I don't know if you went to the Firehouse Deli last year, but I think it was a 1st grade class, wrote a review on the Firehouse Deli, gave them stars. I think they got 5 stars. And then they wrote a review on it, and they brought it over to the deli, and the deli actually hung it up inside on the refrigerator. So that was very cute that they were able to see their writing in real life application. I don't think it's there anymore, but we'll do another one. And then my favorite thing to do is to get families involved in reading and writing. So we have bedtime story time. One of my favorite pictures is right there with the 3 Barry children sitting there in their house watching, whether it was me or another teacher, read at their leisure at home. It's very cute. We did Park Week last week, which is pick a reading partner. We had activities for each night. Read with a partner with a flashlight, read with a partner over Zoom or over FaceTime. So getting parents and families involved that maybe couldn't be in the house that night. We had family literacy night. So at that point we had an author. We had, you can see in the top right is a writing prompt. And families finished the writing prompt. They wrote one sentence, and then another person wrote another sentence, and we saw where it ended. And again, we have the dress-up days as well. And then another picture that was up there was 2 students at Arrival, and they were adults dressed as Piggy and Elephant from the famous Piggy and Elephant books. And those were actually parents of our students who got those costumes and wanted to come do that for us. So it's really important that we build that connection not only with people in our buildings, but also foster that love of reading and writing with our families at home. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Velasco. So I will try and do some justice to Sylvan Avenue, and I see some teachers sitting over there, so, I'm a little nervous now. But really, a lot of the things that Ms. Velasco and Ms. Beard talked about in terms of the different activities that are done within the classrooms and are done school-wide to just really promote and foster that love of reading, that love of writing, and how do we bring that to some of the messages throughout the school. And some of the things that you see being done at Sylvan Avenue is making kindergartners super readers, really incorporating things that are of interest to them, superheroes, and talking about the reading superpowers that they have, and then really allowing those students to develop that superpower themselves as they really become good readers. Book tasting. Okay? No, they're not eating the books, but they are using this activity in a fun way to try out different genres, to get the students interested in different types of books and different reading materials. Reading marathon in 4th grade, really building up that stamina of reading in a fun way. Again, they do things such as author visits, read-alouds, getting the students to see other people, whether it's people that actually wrote the books, all the way to different people from within the building and within the district to come and share that love for reading. When it comes to writing, trying to bring that writing to their interests, getting students to develop their own characters so that they can really make that writing fun, and then taking that creativity with the students and bringing it to teaching them about figurative language, encouraging them to use different styles within their writing with similes, metaphors, and really utilizing library space to have an interactive library for the students. And one thing, if you look over, we talked about one of the SEL themes being at the elementary school, kindness. Sylvan Avenue has really embraced this with their 5th grade in terms of reading the book Wonder. It came out several years ago, but it is such a tremendous book when it comes to teaching students about things such as empathy. And the 5th graders are reading this along with their teachers and using it to then be kind to one another, doing activities in which they're talking about kindness and coming up and writing things that are kind about their classmates, but then also doing something that so many students maybe are reluctant, and even adults are reluctant to do, is write kind things about themselves and really build that self-esteem within themselves. So it's one of those things that you see across all 3 of our elementary schools, and I really thank the principals under their leadership, and I really thank the teachers, is that the activities that they're doing are developing the interest with the students, but really trying to develop that love of reading and writing. And that's really where it starts, is that if somebody wants to do it, if they love doing it, that's where they're going to further develop those skills. So as we look at this and as we start to move forward, just to show you briefly, and I talked about at the beginning, just to point out, and I had moved some of the pictures around, there is the picture of the Firehouse Deli in Blue Point Elementary with their review for it that Ms. Velasco had pointed out. But returning to it, one of the things we've started really focusing on the data, and what does that show us as we move forward? And this was something that was in the academic presentation at the beginning of the year, is coming into this school year, we looked at the data from last year when a lot of the work had started, and we did see tremendous growth K through 5 last year alone, district-wide, in students reading on or above grade level, the orange being 2022-23. So the reason I show this to you right now is that is a data point for us to look at as a district and something that we have looked at. And it does raise, it is just one data point. It raises questions. It raises questions for further exploration. What does that mean? Is it something that's going to continue? I can share with you that we've continued to look at this, and we've looked at things like the iReady benchmarks throughout this year, and we've seen similar trends with the iReady benchmarks this year. One of the things that we're going to move forward to as we go into next year, and we've started these conversations, is not only using the iReady data as something just as a teaching and instructional tool with the students, but sharing it with the parents as well, which is something that we have not done as a district as a whole in the past. So looking to doing something like that next year to bring parents into the fold as to the conversations about how your child is doing when it comes to reading and then even writing, but also what can we do to help support them both in school and at home. So again, as we continue to look forward, we look at some of the things, and we can't avoid some of the current trends that are out there in the area of literacy right now, and that's one of them coming into this school year. You talked about, you may have heard in the news coming into the year, things with regards to the science of reading versus Teachers College. One thing I can share with you as a district, we did not jump right there and make any changes at that time because we looked at our program as a whole and our literacy instruction, our writing instruction as a whole, and we looked at some of the ways that we are supplementing it. And we looked at some of the elements of the science of reading, and we are doing a lot of those already within our classrooms and doing that within, especially at the K-1-2 level, we are doing a lot of those elements. So as we move forward, we're keeping that in mind. Looking at next year, we'll continue to look at, are there pilot programs that we can run? How would we evaluate those pilot programs? But then also looking next year, and we've already started talking about at our instructional council, is we will take a look at and evaluate our program as a whole and see, are there elements that we do need to tweak? Are there things that we, are we going to stay with? And it really is, it comes down to that central question of what can we do to benefit the students of Bayport Blue Point? And that's keeping that in mind throughout. So taking a look at the data, taking a look at the supports we can provide for students as we move into the 24-25 school year. So just again, to conclude, I want to thank the building principals, Ms. Beard, Ms. Velasco, Mr. Scardino, for their support with this presentation, but also their leadership in developing that love of reading, and really the teachers of all the classes, the staff at all the buildings, from aides and assistants as well. As you can see with many of the activities that they do, it is not just in isolation within a classroom. When they do these activities, these even just the dress-up days, it is a full building. Everyone participates in it, so it really does foster that community within each of the buildings. So I thank them all for that.
You guys mentioned Taylor Swift. Are all three buildings Swifties? Any questions from trustees?
You asked the best one. I just wanted to thank you just on a personal level as an elementary parent. I think elementary schools are really magical places, and you all really set the tone for the rest of the district because you're the entry point for students to the district. So I just wanted to thank you. I've been in education for 20 years, but I work in a high school. So I, as an elementary parent, am getting an introduction to just how magical of a place an elementary school really is. And just wanted to thank Ms. Velasco, Ms. Beard, Mr. Scardino, the whole team for all the work that you do to really set the tone for our students' experiences, not only in your building, but as they prepare to transition to the secondary level as well. So thank you so much.
Any other trustees? Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
I just want to say one thing. Thank you. I want to say thank you too. You said a lot of what I was thinking, and just want to say too that I have older children now. Many people have older children now that are not in elementary school anymore, or maybe we have preschool kiddos coming in, and your social media highlights some of it, but tonight really said it all. So thank you so much for explaining it, for doing the work, for the teachers that are doing all this every day too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. One more round of applause for these guys. Well, at this time, we will turn it over to Dr. Harney and Mr. Fronterio for our 7th budget presentation and also a pre-K discussion within the presentation.
Good evening. All right, just on a side note, something that Ms. Cerrone and Ms. Pignataro was just talking about is, you may have seen it in the paper, and we often look at the paper, right, most recently, and if you were following the numbers that were in the paper in terms of graduation rate and advanced Regents diploma rate, is you'll see Bayport Blue Point was top 10 in Suffolk County for graduation rate, and that's difference of mere, tenths of a point. And then advanced Regents diploma rate, they were 4th in Suffolk County. And people often look at the high school and that, but it really does start at the elementary level and the things that they've been doing down there, and then is reinforced as they go through the middle school and high school. So that is really something to celebrate. When we often talk about a district, it really is a district accomplishment. So congratulations to everybody. So I just wanted to share that as we look at that. Tonight, what we're going to do, Mr. Fronterio, and I'm going to go through this a little bit with him tonight, is we're going to kind of take two conversations in one. So last time, if you were here, we did a number of presentations last time, whether it happened to be with our strategic planning, and then we did a budget, and then we also talked about pre-K. We've kind of worked that into here. So I'm going to kind of do one part of it, which talks about some of those differences for the Board of Ed. And then Mr. Fronterio will talk about some of on the revenue side, what that looks like. So we're going to kind of tag team this one a little bit. So these are kind of our goals for tonight, taking a look at that. And this is just the agenda items, which I'm not going to go through, but we're going to really focus on really two different approaches here, which really talks about the pre-K piece and then changes as we went through all the staff. If you remember, I did a staff presentation last time that is on our website, so you can go to that. So I'm not going to redo that. This is where we are in the calendar. It is March 26th. If you're paying attention to this in terms of April 16th is when the budget has to be board adopted. And then obviously we will then have to do a budget hearing on May 7th that Mr. Fronterio will do, that we need to do by law. And then obviously we have the vote a couple of weeks later. So we'll have that for the budget. These are the numbers that Mr. Fronterio has been using all along, and this will be our base for tonight. You've continuously heard us talk about a 3.51 budget to budget, and you've also heard us talk about an allowable tax levy of 3.91. So those are numbers that you're going to hear tonight, but we're going to show you a couple of things that we were able to do as we continuously take a look at this. This slide is really going to walk us into the next couple of slides. So Mr. Fronterio has what has changed. So tonight, we're going to basically focus on the budget to budget, and then we'll go from there. Saying all this, I do want to lay the groundwork that nothing has changed from the governor's office. The aid predictions or the aid runs that came out of the executive budget are exactly as they were, which has the district down to 1.159 in foundation aid. But then we do have the executive budgets, the one-house budgets where you have the Assembly and the Senate. Theirs basically is to restore that save harmless, which would be restoring that 1.159. They've also asked for an increase, but as of right now, we do not know any of that. You've heard me talk in the past that they talk about where the budget really needs to be, is supposed to be presented by April 1st, but everything that I am hearing from our local legislators is that is not going to happen, and that is not necessarily uncommon. Last year was May 10th. The difference between last year and this year was last year there was no discrepancy between the executive budget and the one-house budget. They both were talking about foundation aid and what it was. This year there is a clear discrepancy between the two. So that's where we have to make certain assumptions as we're going forward. So I'm just laying that for you, which takes us into some of our conversation here for tonight. So what we were looking at, when we're looking at the budget, you're going to hear us talk about a couple of numbers there. the 3.51, we're going to talk about a possible 2.91 and a 2.74, and we'll show you what that looks like. But really what it has to do is reductions in staff due to retirements and enrollments that you've heard us talk about that we went through. We are talking about possible additions as well. We have a part-time elementary guidance. We are thinking about making that full-time. We are adding the high school robotics club. That is in the budget. We're talking about adding a driver's ed vehicle so that we can do all that on our own here. Pre-K is a question mark there because that's going to be part of our conversation tonight. Also within that is not in there, which I think becomes very important, which you heard me speak about the last time. Everything that we're talking about tonight, even though we were able to reduce some of our expenditures or expenses, it doesn't change our class sizes. They're still at a very good numbers for us as we're going forward, so we haven't impacted any of that. And then obviously the impact on the budget, what we're talking about when talking budget to budget. You're going to hear us talk about two possible reductions between $645,000 and $500,000. And that's where you see the budget to budget and the tax levy relief left there. So we'll kind of go to the next slide. So what this does is, so everything that you just heard me talking about is when Mr. Frontario had presented the initial budget, you'll have seen lines that he had gone through them where he had talked about, we knew we had retirements and that we were replacing all those retirements at that time. All through the process, I've continuously said, we're going to take a look at staff. We're going to take a look to see, bless you, we're going to see if we needed to replace them or whatever it may be. So that's what we've done for the last really 2 weeks. We've spent a ton of time going through all of our numbers, revisiting all our numbers. So what you have here is you have another possible reduction. So the reductions that Mr. Frontario already shared, which were already included in that 351. So this is in addition to now. Where we're talking about another possible $645,000, which is all related to really majority of those things that I was talking about in terms of staff, all right? Whether it be through retirements or through just enrollment pieces. So that's the 2.71, and then those are the other numbers. And what you see there is where, that's why you see in the instructional area, now it has a negative 320, is that right? My eyes are bad. 312, thanks, Lou. 312. All right, so that's what you see that, because before that was on the positive side. So that is where you're seeing most of the reductions. And again, that is related to the staff things as we talked about. You've heard me for years and years speak about the declining enrollment. So that's kind of that. What the 645 takes into account is all that, and that's where our budget to budget is at 2.74. We have not done anything with the allowable tax levy. It's still 3.91. That is, regardless of whatever we do to expenses, that is what the district is allowed to go to. That is what you saw just recently this week, I guess it was. Every district was in there. You saw a couple of districts that were talking about piercing a cap. We are not talking about that. But you also saw a lot of the districts were going to that allowable tax levy. That is what our number of 3.91 is. So that kind of does it. What this does, if we were to do this, is we were able to, and then I'll hand this over the revenue piece over to Mr. Frontario. What we were able to do is take a look at this. The second number we're going to show you, which is a 2.91, okay, so it's going from 3.51 to 291, is we were able to take a look. Oh, so this is the one here. We were able to take a look at everything we were doing. And if you remember at the last presentation when we were talking about, and this is where pre-K comes into it, we were talking about pre-K, and if I remember right, Mr. Haas had an expense to additional pre-K of somewhere around $240,000, $250,000, right around there. At that point, we said, let us go back and take a look at some of those numbers. So we went back there. That's where if we were to add pre-K right now, and we believe it would be at, and when I say the worst case scenario, I'm talking from a financial piece, okay? We figure we've got it down to about 145 right now. So that's where you're seeing the difference between the two versions, one at 500,000 of a reduction and one at 645. So we wanted to present that to the board so that you had all that information. What we were able to do is take a look at that. We take a look at the cost of the classes and all that. So we kind of revisited that, and we were able to, we believe at the top end of it, it would be 145, and we may even be able to get that down a little bit more. but we won't know that till later on, so that's why we're presenting that to the board tonight, so you have that information. So just to recap real quick, we took a look at all of our numbers, we went back, we were able to make reductions. The reductions really can range right now between 500 and 645. If we were to add the addition of the 2 classes, at the minimum, it would be that $500,000 reduction. If we were not to go forward with the pre-K, it would be 645. That's what you're seeing here. I'm going to have Mr. Fronterio really just talk about the revenue sides, show you what it does to it a little bit, and then we'll answer any questions that you may have, but I just wanted to kind of walk you through those 2 things because that was the main part of our conversation from last week to this week. All right?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Harney. So this is the version of a 2.74% budget-to-budget increase. And essentially, as I've spoken in all of the budget workshops, whenever we're developing the budget on the expense side, we have to balance that budget on the revenue side. No matter how many dollars we want to spend, we have to have them on the revenue side as well. So this is predicated, and all the presentations that have been through the 6 workshops that we've done so far, is that we've been talking about our tax levy increase being at the cap, the allowable cap, which is 3.91. If we were able to, and the assumption here is in this option, because there are 2 options to the 2.74% scenario, is that we would use the tax levy cap, and then in terms of state aid, we would assume a 0 change, since there's so much that we don't know that's going to happen in Albany yet, and we're not sure if we'll really get a cut in foundation aid or not. We figured this would be a good way to do that. The fact that we've lowered the budget, in this case by $645,000, and we're keeping the tax levy at the allowable tax levy limit, I can definitely balance the budget because we'll get a good chunk of revenue from taxes, book the 0% state aid, and then just, or all of our other sources, I can be conservative, because on the revenue side, you want to under-promise and over-deliver. So I like to be as conservative as I can on the revenue side to be sure that those monies come in and we cover every expense that we have to. But it's always a crapshoot. You never exactly know. For sure, you have to, but ultimately you have to be in balance. So that's the first version, option A, at the 645 reduction. Option B on the 645 reductions, we'll book a little bit of the state aid that we think we're going to get, and that's from the categorical aids. Because those are categorical aids like transportation and building aid and high cost aid, et cetera, that it was already in the plan. So we're going to get that, hopefully. And if we don't get any changes, even if we just get all of our foundation aid, we would be seeing a $467,000 increase in aid. Hopefully that works out. I'm able to actually reduce some of the other items like other revenue and appropriated fund balance and so forth down, so we don't have to use those numbers to balance the budget. And ultimately we're there, either option A or option B in budget. This was the this is the 2.9 scenario that we talked about on the expense side. And there's 2 slides, again, option A and option B on the revenue side. Again, it's basically the same story, except that we've reduced the budget this time by $500,000, not $645. Again, we're using the base, the allowable tax levy limit to go to 3.91, and a little bit of additional revenue I need or book higher for the other revenues, and don't have to touch the appropriated fund balance or the transfer from reserves. And that would be where we're, again, assuming state aid at 0. In this one, we're assuming that parallel construction, that the state aid will increase by $467,000. Again, keeping the tax levy at the 3.91 level, and then again, using the various other areas to just balance the budget and plug them in. Obviously, some of the things I can reduce, like appropriated fund balance and transfer reserves, will help us at the end of the year if all of our funds come in as we plan. And this is basically our 14-year history of our budget-to-budget increases and our tax levy increases. The number in parentheses was the cap number. In the past couple of years, the board has gone under the cap. But however, this year, not knowing what state aid might look like, it might be at this point where we need to go right up to the cap. And that's it in summary. 2.36 budget to budget over 14 years on average is really pretty tight. And the same thing with tax levy increase is pretty reasonable over the long haul. And tonight, hopefully, we'll have some decisions because, as Dr. Harney mentioned, April 16th is looming, and we're going to have to adopt a budget for that night for the May 21st vote. Sir?
Any questions from trustees? Mr. Johnson?
Referring to the driver's ed car, is there an offset there? Are we reducing costs of the program by buying that car?
So within the first year of driver's ed, there would be potential of a slight decrease in terms of the overall cost of it. That's one of the things when buying the car that would have an impact really down the road when you don't, because it is a single expense in that 1 year. As you move forward with the program, we would be able to take a look at what the cost is year after year and hopefully bring it down for our students.
So, yeah, so I mean, we're looking at it as additional expense, but really it's an opportunity to save money in the future, so that's good.
And also, Mr. Johnson, just so you're aware, if you're comparing us to, in terms of driver's ed costs to other districts, we are under all of them, just so you're aware as we currently are as well.
My other question is, so all this basically is worst case scenario, meaning state aid numbers don't change, the 1.5 million reduction in foundation aid holds, or $1 million.
Yeah, what Mr. Fronterio did was 2 scenarios for you. We were trying to, probably trying to be a little bit on the conservative just because we don't know, right? So the first one was that the foundation aid is gone, as we've said, the 1.159. And if you do all the math, it puts us down about 691, or 691, right? 691, because our categorical aid went up a little bit, right? So it offsets it a little bit. So our total state aid, if you compared the executive budget to last year's, is down 691. So we made that as our first assumption, that we weren't going to get anything else. That's why Mr. Fronterio is saying is, with the reductions, regardless of which model you had, if we didn't get any of the aid, our allowable tax levy should be able to cover us for if we didn't get anything. That's what we're hoping, right? It wouldn't put us in a worse spot. The second one is we made an assumption, because we wanted to see what it would look like. We did the one is, okay, they make state aid 0, or that's the one, right? So they do the 0, and that's basically putting that 691 back in, so we wanted to do that. And that would then allow us to basically say, all right, overall, we went up $400,000+ because of the categorical. So that's kind of how we did this. The other thing that was in the executive budget, but I don't know if it will hold, is they did full foundation aid plus 3%. If they were to do that, that would put us in the 800,000 thereabouts on the increase from year to year, just so you're aware. But so we didn't go to the bottom and we didn't go to the top. We kind of went to the 2 in the middle because we do think it's going to fall somewhere there, but that's just our guess.
We'd feel a little better if it's like worst case scenario and only gets better from there, but so I mean, it's not terrible, but there is a situation where this scenario gets a little worse.
That's why the decision really becomes about the allowable tax levy at one point, and the other thing is also trying to predict going forward, right? So again, this is just making assumptions, and other people have heard me say this, is I don't know what will come out of next year's budget. So because the governor brings up the loss of foundation aid this year, or the save harmless, does that mean, all right, we're going to restore it, but we're warning you for next year? I don't know. So this is something to think about. They're talking about changing the foundation formula, which is a request by many people. I don't know what that will do either, because who knows what it will be. So there's some just unknowns when it comes to, that's why with the tax, the tax levy, we're saying we may want to go closer to the top than I would have said 4 months ago, 5 months ago, because of just all the uncertainties.
I do want to point out when we talk in 391, there's a couple of factors behind that. That's, it's not clear that everybody's taxes are going up 3.91. I would say if you've done nothing to your house at all in the past year, your taxes would be below that increase. But a lot of this people need to realize is that this is the bond that we're taking out for a lot of these costs are for completing the energy conservation bond that we're doing with the solar panels. So we have to pay for that, and we got to start financing those bonds, and that's why our tax levy has to be high. But we're going to see reductions in expenses because now we're not using electricity. We're going to start seeing rebates coming our way, so there will be future year offsets of these costs. But ultimately, that tax cap includes that number. It includes your budget growth, and it also includes everything that's developed in the area. It's our ability to raise the tax levy because new homes that are built are now coming onto the rolls. People are doing additions on their houses, putting in pools. That incorporates, that whole 391 incorporates all that stuff that's being added to the tax levy and the tax rolls. It's not necessarily the cost of increase of your taxes. If you're just somebody who hasn't done anything, it would be less than that. So if that number spooks you, it's something just to kind of consider.
I mean, just the principle, we had interest in this year's budget for the EPC, but next year in 24-25, we had to build in $580,000 of principal as well. So that's in there. And everything, no matter what scenario you see tonight, whether it's 351 or 274 or 291, everything we know and love about the district is in that. It's intact, all our programs and services.
Any other trustee questions?
So we really just need to kind of know so we can build this budget in turn for the 16th, because we're not going to see anybody again. I mean, we can obviously bring options there, but we just need some guidance now in terms of
So in regards
on
to
the reductions and then really where we want that tax levy to be, because that's what we have to kind of build around for the 16th.
so we have to have a conversation around pre-K.
Yeah. So as I shared with you, the pre-K would be, the way we planned it would be, we took the information from the last meeting, we did it around 2 classes currently. I should let me rephrase that. Addition of 2 classes is what we were looking at it. And looking similar to that model that Mr. Haas had presented, where one we were doing internal and one we might be trying to do through a CBO. Again, we'd have to put some of that stuff out to an RFP or look into that stuff, so there's other things, but that's how we were looking at it. And that's where that cost of 145 came to. And that's minus now all the state aid, all of that. We kind of went through all of that again. Took a look at what it would do to reconfigure classrooms, so we kind of tried to do it in everything. And we think 145 is at the top end right now, and we might be able to reduce that a little bit. So that is also obviously one of our goals, but that's really what we're comfortable presenting tonight. And that's the 291 version of budget to budget. Correct.
Anybody have any questions or comments about pre-K?
So just to clarify, just so I'm straight on numbers, when we spoke about pre-K at the last meeting, the 246 number that you brought, now you're fairly confident that the top end of that is 145?
Yep.
For 2 classes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I think I'll say it again. I think we should do 2 classes, get all 33 kids in, and I would ask that we move forward with pre-K.
I have a quick question. So a couple of things that the cost is above and beyond what the state aid is. So, and that's a full 107, I don't know if it's 111, 107. That's full participation.
Yeah,
Now-
we have, if we added 2 classes, we have room for 38 students, depending on how we do it, anywhere between 36 and 38 students.
So I guess the one thing I'd want to know is we definitely got to confirm with the parents. I mean, I guess before, my fear is that several parents or several families drop out because maybe they didn't know that there's no before care, maybe there's struggles with that, or maybe they just, so to me, because the fear becomes, we have to pay for this. If we sign up for the full, these 6 classes, we'll call them, in total, we have to pay for them, but every person who drops out, that's $5,500 in revenue that we lose. So now that goes on top of that $150,000 because we're not getting that state aid. That this is all in if we do this. So that's my one concern. And my other concern is once we open these classrooms, are they permanent for next year? Meaning the last, I know that the program's growing, but last year we had a significant amount less that signed up for the lottery. What if the number comes in at 70 or 80 next year? Is that an easy back out for as far as, no harm on future budgets, or are we kind of like going to have an empty class that we have to pay for?
I think it's the same. So let's go back 2 things. In terms of the first question about knowing where anybody on the waiting list sits right now, it's a good point. We have not followed up with them because we weren't sure of what was going. That would be something that we would have to do. And that is something we can easily do. That's making phone calls, right, along those lines. So that's one. 2, the second part, I think, falls into almost, Mr. Johnson, like almost anything related to enrollment. For example, if we had less kindergarten students, we've always looking at enrollment. If we've had more in kindergarten, we've had to add. So we've had those kind of conversations. As we're going through and the classes are moving through, we're continuously taking a look at class sizes and those. So I think the same things would have to apply to pre-K. I would not promise you that they would be there for the next year, especially if there wasn't the demand, because then why, Yeah, there's not a problem with that, right? Yeah. Yeah, I will double check for you, but I believe it's just like anything else that we've done. And like, for example, the CBOs and stuff that we're doing are year to year. So that's something that we know that we have too. The only thing I can really talk to is in these this will be the 3rd year, right, is each year it has grown a little bit. The real question would be is, at some point as a district, we're going to have to take a look at it and say, I couldn't tell you, depending on what aid and all that looks like next year, if there was a need for 125 kids, I couldn't tell you at that point then, and we could do another class. I can't tell you that at this point. Right. But that goes along with everything that we do, and pre-K is not a mandatory, though it is something that we're trying to obviously expose more of our students to.
I mean, I will say this before we even vote or talk on it. I got on the board, almost 8, 9 years ago. We didn't have busing, we didn't have pre-K, we didn't have a lot of things that I thought were normal things that school districts had. And I think everybody, people on this board, and actually the people that came on this year or last year, have not only helped to establish but also grow the program. So I think it's important where we're at with programs as far as, in comparison to some of our other peers out there in other school districts. I think we had this conversation early in the year where we kind of said, we really need a zero growth budget. We need to really not, add anything unless we take something away. I will say this, out of anything we could discuss, if we're going to take risk, I think this is the area to take risk. I mean, this is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to educate the students and the children in the community. And if that starts at preschool, then, I'm all in.
Ms. Conley?
There's so many facets to this, and I think all of us up here, philosophically, wholeheartedly believe in, sure, let's get them as early as possible into our second home that is this school, and let's educate them all together. Just speaking about numbers, the flip side of what Mr. Johnson said is, okay, so if we do these 2 classes, we have the capacity for 116 students. What if, it's a big what if, What if we have a population boom over the summer and we get that 117th kid? What happens?
I think at some point, and I don't mean it like this, but I'm going to put it this way. It's the same thing as a mileage is voted on, right? You pick the mileage is X amount of miles for transportation, and then there's always a line, right? There's always a line, and I don't mean it that way, is where there's the next house, and then that next house leads to that next house. It's the same thing here. At that point, I would tell you is we could not commit to another class at that time. There's just no way, so, we would put the person, like we've done in the past, probably on a list, and if somebody were to drop or unable to do it or moved or something like that, then we'd go to that, which we've done in the past. So that is something which is what we currently do.
I commend you both for all of the work that you've done on this and getting the savings down to, I think, a more palatable number. One of our main roles as trustees is, we don't decide what the school district is spending. We decide to put forth a budget that then constituents vote on, and we have to be comfortable with what's going out there. And I think 145 for getting the rest of the kids in seems reasonable, and I would hope that the community would support that.
Ms. Pignataro?
So the concerns I expressed at the last meeting are the same concerns I have now, just about sustainability long-term, but it sounds like you've kind of thought that through. I want to thank you, Mr. Frontario and team, because I'm sure there was some gymnastics done to bring that number down, and thank you for that.
I think
it's commendable, really.
I think to talk to your point is, most of the things that we talk about within the budget, if you really think about the large picture, like your ability for sustainability, I'm going to be honest with you, if we lose all of our foundation aid this year, with what we've done, we're probably okay if we go close to the allowable tax levy. But then next year, it's not just pre-K we're talking about. And this is not a BAPE or a Blue Point thing. This is a New York State thing, right? So this is I think your sustainability probably applies to a number of things across the district, because for years they've talked about changing BOCES aid, they've talked about changing building aid, and if they do any of those, it will have the same exact impact as losing foundation aid.
And I think something we talk about always is leadership as the long view, right?
Yeah.
So obviously we can't predict the future. We can't predict future enrollment. We can't predict what goes on with our aid. I would agree with you, though, that we do have to have a line somewhere, and I think this is it.
Yeah.
For me to comfortably agree with this would have to be the line. And I think we also have to make sure that everyone's aware. I know Mr. Haas and team do a great job of making everyone aware about the before and after care options and things like that, because there are some folks that may want to be at the CBO for that reason. I would not want to open a conversation about that.
At this point,
Anywhere
again,
else.
we haven't done all that because this was our first. We're not necessarily, for additional
Right.
costs, we're not looking to add any of that stuff at
And
this
I
point,
think-
just because there's so many other unknowns that I think if we were to do this, at least this would be my recommendation, and I would say I'll take my lead from the Board of Ed, but I would say that's kind of where we should be.
Well,
at
like
the present
Mrs.
time.
Kane said, and other trustees have said, philosophically, this is a wonderful thing. And I think that the increased interest and the growth of the program is a huge credit to the staff that are in the rooms every day with our kids. I'm comfortable moving forward with the caveat kind of that we also want to make the community aware that the whole purpose of a UPK lottery is not for anyone to feel excluded, but to include as many students as possible in the fairest way possible. So, it's a common practice in many districts. It's not something that's isolated to here. So, it is very hard to hear that you're on a waiting list, and we know that. And, the increased community engagement is always a great thing to see. I would hope for the folks that have engaged with us about this, that your engagement with the work of the district doesn't end here. You know, this is an incredible number of people to still be sitting here at this point. So we thank you for that. But that's a really long way of saying I'm comfortable moving forward with all those other things in place.
Any other trustees? So is it fair to say, if I'm reading the room, that we are good to go with this will be 38 additional spots?
Well, it would be able to handle up to 36 at a minimum, maybe 38. Again, that will depend on how the classes are divvied up in terms of CBO, Bayport, Blue
So
Point.
just so we're answering the questions where people are going to ask. So we're going to have an opportunity for the 33 people on the wait list and potentially 3 more if 3 more were to come over the summer.
Correct. But if all of a sudden, and I think one of the points Mr. Johnson brought up, if all of a sudden there were 15 or 16 people who said, you know, no, we found something else at this time, then we might say we're going to do 1 class at that time. We're not going to build a second class for 2 or 3 students. I don't think that's fiscally responsible. Not that we want to exclude, but I think that is something that we need to we need to do that.
I think the word was maybe opportunity. The opportunity will be there.
Correct. I just want to give both things as we're going through this, because I think it's a very good point, is I don't know if people have made other plans or anything along those lines. Yes, we've heard from a number of people, but I don't know everyone's plans, so.
Is there anything else you need from the board in regards to the levy, pre-K, or the budget in general before April 16th?
So then we would be working with a levy of 391 with the reduction of the 500 with pre-K in.
I
At
agree.
2.91, so the budget to budget is 2.91.
So the levy's 3.91, budget to budget 291, and the pre-K would be an addition, would be included.
Correct.
Does anybody see that differently? So,
Well, and I think we've talked about over the last 3 years, we've come under and we've dipped into our savings and we've left about $1 million on the table between the 3 years. So that's why, with all the uncertainty, I think the closer we go, the better spot we're putting ourselves in for the future. And again, we're trying to take everyone into consideration, so I understand that too.
Mr. Frontario, Dr. Harney, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Moving on to the consent agenda, are there any items the board would like removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda? Not hearing any. Can I have a motion for items G, H, I, J, K, L, M, and N?
So moved.
That was Ms. Conley, second by Mr. Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. Moving on to the regular agenda. Tonight we have 6 items. Can I have a motion to approve the high school principal, Mr. Jamal Walcott, who is in the back of the room?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Conley, Mrs. Pignataro, just wanted to say thank you so much. Welcome to Bayport Blue Point. We appreciate it. And we apologize to your kids because I know they don't want to be here anymore. They're ready. So if you want to take them out of here, we 100% get it. But congratulations. You owe your dad. It's his night. Oh. Oh, Dr. Harney needs a picture with you.
I don't need one. Miss Weinstein will take care of it.
Oh.
She's here. Yep.
Moving on to our other principal who is also here. Can I have a motion to approve Meredith Kelly, the principal with one of our elementary schools?
So moved.
We got Ms. Conley, second by Mr. Krug. Ms. Cerrone. Mr. Krug only has one night. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Congratulations. So we're definitely going to go in the back, and we'll get a photo of both of you guys. come on up. We'd love to have a photo with you. You didn't hear what I just... Again, one more time, congratulations. Just moving on to our third item. Can I have a motion to adopt the strategic plan for the 2024 school year? We have Ms. Saron, second by
Second.
Ms. Pignataro. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Can I have a motion to approve the following inspectors of the elections as read?
So moved.
Ms. Saron, second by Ms. Conley. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Can I have a motion to review the second reading of policy 6010, fiscal controls, 6100, annual budget, and 6410, authorized signatures?
So moved.
Ms. Conley,
Second.
second by Ms. Pignataro. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. Moving on to our last item, can I have a motion to approve the first reading of policy 0110.1, sexual harassment of students, 5460, child abuse, maltreatment, or neglect outside of the educational setting, 9200, 6850, Medicaid compliance, and 9200, school volunteers? Ms.
Second.
Saron, second by Ms. Conley. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Open it up for any community members for any new or old business. Hey guys, thank you so much for staying.
Hi, everybody. I just want to say thank you so much to the board. Thank you so much, Dr. Harney and Mr. Frontario. I know that it wasn't an easy decision to okay the expansion of UPK. I know you weighed the costs and the benefits really, really carefully. It's just so heartening just to have seen you really hear us community members and weigh the evidence carefully. We're so hopeful. We feel so optimistic. So thank you so much for everything that you do and continue to do for our district.
Thank you so much. If you could just throw your name out there so we have it.
My name is Christina Wolin.
Thank you so much.
Allison
Appreciate
Rogers.
it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you staying tonight. Any other community members? Not hearing any, we'll open up any trustee new business. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Krug. All in favor?
Aye.
Have a great night, guys. Thank you so much.